Man, I think we can officially say that the AI wars have now just begun. So, if you've been living under a rock for like the past week, past couple months, even, OpenAI brought out their AI called O1. And this was significant because it has the chain of reasoning, or yeah, I think that's what it's officially called, chain of reasoning. Essentially, the model can actually like quote unquote think, right? Now, whether it thinks like a human or not, I don't know, man. That's something up for debate. But essentially, before it gives you an output, it thinks about the response, and then after it thinks about that response, then it gives you an output. Unlike many traditional, the many traditional AI models like Llama or even ChatGPT 4.0, right? Where as soon as you type something, bam, you get an answer just like that, right? No, with O1, it actually thinks through, you know, it thinks through its response. Now, this is where it gets spicy. So, Deepseek, which is a Chinese company, just released their Deepseek R1 model. And it looks like it beats out ChatGPT or OpenAI's O1 model. Now, why is this significant? The main reason this is significant is because it didn't take as many resources to train the DeepSeek R1 model as it did the O1 model. Now, for comparison, O1 took around, I don't know how long it took to train, but just off cost alone, it took somewhere in the estimate of $20 million, which is a lot of fucking money, right? So that was O1. DeepSeek R1 only took around like 5 to 6 million, which is a fraction of the cost that it took O1 to train on. Not only that, but current, not to get too political, but like currently the whole landscape of us not importing chips to China because of their whole like, essentially we're limiting the exports that China gets in terms of chips. So they're not able to produce as good models as we can. Essentially, the US has better hardware, better chips than China. Now, that's another reason why it's significant, right? So they were still able to create a model that outperforms O1 with inferior hardware and less money, which means that all of this money and hardware that we have can be used more efficiently to train models. But like, I mean, I don't know how tapped in you guys are to the whole AI thing, but from my perspective, it just seems like month after month after month, these companies just tend to throw like raw GPU horsepower at these models, right? The better the GPU card, the more calculations it can do, and the better it'll actually give you an output, or the better it's actually able to train that model, and the faster it's able to train it. That's why Nvidia stock has gone up, like has just shot through the roof, right? Because Nvidia creates quality um, GPUs that people use to train these models on. But that's another thing. After this, um, after this model got released, Deepseek R1 is the name of the model that got released, and people were benchmarking it. Nvidia's stock tanked, dude. Nvidia's stock tanked because the investors and people who were investing in the stock, right, were like, wait, hold on a minute. You're telling me that a Chinese company with less hardware, with inferior hardware and less money was able to create a model that outperforms the top of the line spickety spec O1 model that costs more money to train and has had even better resources to be trained on? Huh? The math ain't math in here, right? So let's go ahead and jump into this. So, open source Deepseek R1 uses pure reinforcement learning to match OpenAI O1 at 95% less cost. Chinese AI startup Deepseek, known for challenging leading AI vendors with open source technologies, just dropped another bombshell, a new open reasoning LLM called Deepseek R1. Based on the recently introduced Deepseek V3 mixture of experts model, Deepseek R1 matches the performance of O1, OpenAI's frontier LLM across math, coding, and reasoning tasks. The best part, it does this at a much more tempting cost, proving to be 90 to 95% more affordable than the latter. The release marks a major leap forward in the open source arena. It showcases that the models are further closing the gap with closed commercial models in race to AGI, artificial general intelligence, to show the prowess of its work. Deepseek also used R1 to distill Llama 6 to distill 6 Llama and Quen models, taking their performance to new levels. In one case, a distilled version of Quen 1.5 billion parameters outperformed much bigger models, ChatGPT 4o and Claude 3.5 Sonnet, in select math benchmarks. These distilled models, along with main R1, have been open sourced and are available on Hugging Face under an MIT license. Okay, so what does Deepseek R1 bring to the table, right? The focus is sharpening on artificial general intelligence, a level of AI that can perform intellectual tasks like humans. A lot of the teams are doubling down on enhancing models' reasoning capabilities. OpenAI made the first notable move with the domain with its O1 model, which is what I said before, right? OpenAI was pretty much like the first company to release this chain of thought model, and you give it a task or a problem or something to solve. It takes some time to think about the response, but at the end, you got a much better answer than you would if you had fed that prompt into, the regular ChatGPT 4o, right? So through reinforcement learning, O1 learns to hone its chain of thought and refine the strategies it uses, ultimately learning to recognize and correct its mistakes or try new approaches when the current ones aren't working, whatever. Now, continuing with the work in this direction, Deepseek has released Deepseek R1, which uses a combination of RL and supervised fine-tuning to handle complex reasoning tasks and match the performance of O1. When tested, Deepseek R1 79.8% on AIM 2024 mathematics tests and 97.3% on Math 500, which, for background, they're just a series of tests that the model has gone through. So when people say AIM 2024 mathematics tests, you can just think of them as like tests, just like how at school you would take certain tests. These models would, quote unquote, take these tests, and based on how well they perform is this score, right? So this score, the Deepseek R1 scored 79.8% on AIM 2024 and 97.3 on Math 500. It also achieved 20,029 rating on Codeforce's better than 96.3% of human programmers. In contrast, O1 1217 scored 79.2%, 96.4%, and 96.6%. And these are the benchmarks. So you can see here, Deepseek R1, blue, OpenAI, which is green, Deepseek R1, 32 billion, is a little less, is lighter blue, and so on and so forth, right? You can see here, AIM, 79.8. Deepseek R1 beat out pretty much all of them in AIM 2024. In Code Forces, OpenAI actually came out on top. In GPQA Diamond, same thing. OpenAI came out on top. In Math 500, that's where Deepseek R1 beat out all of the other models. MMLU, 91.8. Again, OpenAI won this one. And then with this one, SWE Bench Verified, 49.2. Now, I don't know the actual content of these tests, right? AIM 2024, Code Forces, GPQA, but these are the tests that the industry uses to make sure, or to compare models and see how efficient and how good they are, right? So with that being said, now you might look at some of these numbers and be like, well, wait, hold on. Code Forces, it's not even all that impressive. 01 still won, right? And then this one, GPQA Diamond, like regardless of the test, just looking at the numbers, right? You got 71.5 and then 75.7. But you have to take into account OpenAI 01 took a lot more money and better hardware for it to be trained on, right? Deepseek R1 did it with a fraction of the cost. Now, that's impressive, right? Because if you're able to train a model with less resources, less money, and just overall less overhead, like that's the goal, right? Like you want to be able to train these models on not a lot of money and essentially not as low hardware as you can get away with. And when I mean low hardware, I mean like, well, it's companies we're talking about, so they're probably not going to go for like the bang for your buck hardware, right? Because they want the best of the best. But still, I mean, this shows that like you don't need the best of the best. Now, in terms of like business side, right? I think these were trained on like NVIDIA H800s, I think. GPU. Let me double check. And I believe this NVIDIA H800 chip isn't even like the best of the best, because I think currently there's even better. So let's get back to the article. The training pipeline. Deepseek R1's recent performance marks a big win for the Chinese startup in the US-dominated AI space, especially as the entire work is open source, including how the company trained the whole thing. However, the work isn't as straightforward as it sounds, according to the paper. A breakthrough model trained solely from reinforcement learning. And then we have a X post, or formerly known as Twitter. I still call it Twitter. I don't know about you guys, but in my mind, this is still Twitter. So let's open this. So it says, from Jim Fan, Dr. Jim Fan, we are living in a timeline where a non-US company is keeping the original mission of OpenAI alive, truly open frontier research that empowers all. It makes no sense. The most entertaining outcome is the most likely. That's so funny, and it's so true because, I mean, as you guys might know, OpenAI's O1 isn't open source. So there is no like, is not freely available to everybody. Whereas Deepseek R1, you can go on Hugging Face and download like the original model that beats out O1, as well as like the distilled models, right? Matter of fact, let's do that right now. Hugging Face Deepseek. Oh, I think it was just right here. Look, Deepseek R1 right here. Now, I'm not gonna download this, and I'm not gonna be able, because I can't run it, right? But like you can download it. Deepseek R1 Zero, Distill like there's several versions of this. Whereas you can't download the model for O1. You can't download the model for ChatGPT 4.0, right? So let's continue with the tweet. Deepseek R1 not only open sources a barrage of models, but also spills all the training secrets. They are perhaps the first open source software project that shows major sustained growth for a R reinforcement learning flywheel. I think that's what RL means in that context. Impact can be done by ASI achieved internally or mythical names like Project Strawberry, ASI meaning artificial superintelligence. Impact can also be done by simply dumping the raw algorithms and matplotlib learning curves. So let's continue. Okay, whatever. Just talks about it, training. We don't really care about that. Far more affordable than O1. In addition to enhanced performance that nearly matches OpenAI's O1 across benchmarks, the new Deepseek R1 is also very affordable, specifically where OpenAI O1 costs 15 per million input tokens and 60 per million output tokens. Deepseek Reasoner, which was based on R1 model, costs 0.55 per million input and 2.19 per million output tokens. So it's just cheaper, man. You can see here. So Deepseek AI's Reasoner model, which sits somewhere between O1 Mini and O1, is about 90 to 95% cheaper. That's crazy. MIT license. So, dude, who would have guessed it, right? That the Chinese come out with a AI model that's actually legit open source, and that beats out the current leading AI models, which are American models, which is O1, right? So I mean, there you have it. Like, we have a model that is better than O1 currently. Now, as of the recording of this video, OpenAI has released O3 Mini and O3 Mini High, I believe, which apparently far surpass O1 in terms of reasoning and output. And they just have overall better responses. And for my own testing, yeah, they do seem like a whole heck of a lot better, right? But still, like the fact that a Chinese company, and the Chinese companies and the Chinese governments are like that, right? Like there is no escaping it. There is no escaping or going against the Chinese government, because it's China, man. Like everything is owned by the Chinese government. The Chinese government has a say so. It's unlike here where it's land of the free, America, freedom, baby. But still, like there are national security concerns with this, because much like how it's so with Deepseek R1 now being the quote-unquote best model, I don't think that's necessarily true now with the release of O3 and O3 Mini, or O3 like Mini High. I think that's the name of it. Yeah, O3 Mini High. Um, Essentially, whoever controls the whoever has the best AI model, that's what the masses will use. Because think about it, like why let's say you're a business, right? And you rely heavily on AI to automate some task in your business. Why would you willingly fall behind the AI curve when you know that there is like you, as a business you want to use the best AI, right? You want to use the best AI, so you're going to go with whoever has the best AI, whether it be OpenAI, whether it be Meta with Llama, whether it be even Deepseek with their R1 model, right? As a business, like you don't care. You should, because I mean it comes from China, right? And like I said before, there's some national security concerns as to like them harvesting your data, them like privacy, misinformation, and there's even talks of the Deepseek R1 like censoring certain things within the model. So if that model becomes widely used and you're already censoring certain things, that's an issue, right? Because why would you actively censor certain things? Like it makes sense for certain things, right? Like certain bad things, like say how to make a bomb, or like just stuff like that. Stuff that's very like on the outskirts that like people probably shouldn't have access to. Like that makes sense, but like but like saying like why does the president of China look like Winnie the Pooh? Like having that censored, like that's fucking dumb. Or even like what happened in Tiananmen Square? What happened in the massacre of Tiananmen Square? Like there's no need to censor that. But again, like since this was developed in China, you have to have these restrictions in place, or else the Chinese government is gonna come down on your ass and be like, "Hey, that's a big no-no." Even saying like uh, that Taiwan is a part of China, which is not, right? Taiwan is its own sovereign state. Cool, but I'm pretty sure if you ask DeepSeek, "Hey, you know, is Taiwan a part of China?" It'll give you back a response saying, no, we can't. I'll find a clip and insert it here. But yeah, so there's that aspect of it. And then I don't know, it's just kind of crazy that out of all the companies, a Chinese company would come out with an even better AI model than we already currently have, that is actually legit open source. So I don't know. I would love to hear everybody else's thoughts on this. I would like to spark a dialogue, see where this goes. Um, but yeah, that's it. Just wanted to come in here and just kind of talk shit.